Okay, so the first stage, what we're going to do is disconnect the negative cable on the 12-volt battery. This is the low voltage system, so you'll see that I don't have the high voltage insulated gloves on for this. So we'll disconnect the negative, take it off, and then the next stage is we'll need to put on our high voltage equipment before we remove the manual service disconnect from the high voltage battery. Okay, so the next stage is to disconnect the manual service disconnect plug from the high voltage battery. You'll see I've now got the insulated gloves, class at 0 gloves on. I've got the overglove to protect them and have the face shield on. So the first stage is you need to lift up the plug. And what that does is it disconnects the low voltage interlock. So there's a 12 volt interlock that's protecting the contactors inside the battery. We then remove the MSD and we'll secure that in a locked cabinet away from the vehicle. Okay, so what we're going to do now is perform the dead alive test. That's to make sure that the vehicle is powered down correctly, but also make sure that the multimeter is working correctly. So the first thing we're going to do is alive, so I'm going to put it onto volts DC. I'm using the proven unit here to make sure that the multimeter is working. This proven unit can put out either DC or AC at 240 volts. So I've got it set to DC. I'll take my category 3000 volt multimeter and leads, and we can see there that it's reading about 238 volts. So we know the multimeter is working. So let's now go to the vehicle, to the inverter, and check to make sure the vehicle is dead. Okay, so now we're at the inverter. This is where we're going to check that the vehicle is physically powered down. We've already done the initial check with the multimeter on the proven unit. I've previously taken the bolts out here with the insulated tools. Take the cover off. You'll notice when you take the covers off on the Toyota, there's another interlock plug. So just be careful when you're putting the cover back on, because there is a tendency sometimes to push it at the wrong side of the connector inside the car, and then you'll have a hybrid fault. So let's take this away. Put our multimeter onto volts DC. This is the main battery cable coming into the inverter. So negative, and we're at 0 volts there, so the polarity I've got is the wrong way around, so let's swap around. Still saying 0. I'll go to a different earth, 0, 0. So we've now proved that there's no voltage coming to the inverter, but we need to double check that the multimeters continue to work by going back to the proven unit to make sure that it's putting out 240 volts. Okay, so we've done the live, dead, and this is the final check to make sure the multimeter is still working. So back on the proven unit, and there we go, 238 volts. So the multimeters continue to work. So now we're confident that the vehicle has been powered down. Okay, so now we're going to power up the vehicle. We've put the cover back on the inverter, replaced or put all the bolts back in and torqued them. And we're going to go to the high voltage battery and reconnect the manual service disconnect. Okay, take the manual service disconnect. Gently let it push in. As you start to push the manual service disconnect in, the locking tab is going to come up anyway. So bring it right up. Just make sure that you push that down so that the interlock goes back into place. Reconnect the negative terminal back onto the 12 volt battery and secure. And now we'll check the vehicle to make sure there's no faults on the instrument cluster. Okay, so for the last stage, we've reconnected the low voltage battery. We've got our keys back out the box. Let's start the vehicle and make sure there's no warning lamps on the instrument cluster. We've got the green ready light. No fault codes. Let's press accelerator. Engine starts. Everything was successful.